Hello, everyone. Today we have with us someone who's not just a name, but a story that has inspired countless young Bangladeshis around the world. Born and raised in Dhanmondi, Dhaka, he studied at Government Lab School and Dhaka College, and then set off for the US with big dreams. What happened, what followed was nothing short of remarkable. He became one of the youngest managing directors at JPMorgan, led the record-breaking 25 billion IPO of Alibaba at Credit Suisse, and later joined Snap Inc. as Chief Strategy Officer, where he played a pivotal role in turning Snapchat into a global business success and steering its IPO. He now runs Poem Asset Management and hosts the Conversation podcast, and recently launched Conference, a new platform for bold conversations about leadership, tech, and future. From Dhaka classrooms to billion-dollar boardrooms, his journey is proof of what is possible when vision meets grit. It is a real privilege to welcome Imran Khan to Bangladesh and the world. And thank you, Imran Bhai. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And co-hosting today with us is in this very special episode with me is someone many of you already know from the Bangladesh corporate scene, Munaf Mojib Chowdhury. Munaf is the founder of Ekshate Foundation. He's also the head of brand and communication at Exentic PLC by Robi Axiata, and formerly led the official Meta advertising business in Bangladesh. He's a powerful voice in how technology, storytelling, and youth engagement can shape the future of Bangladesh. With that, let me hand it over to Munaf to take the conversation forward. Munaf, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kawsar Bhai, and to Imran Bhai. This is an amazing honor. Thank you so much for doing this. Right. And I want to give a warm welcome to everyone who's watching. Where we know, once we announced this, we got so many requests of people who really wanted to hear about you, from you. A lot of people told me that make sure the recording is available, because even if we cannot join, we want to really look at it once it's done. But before we start there, I want to show something. I want to play a little clip from probably 3 decades earlier. And then we take it from there.
নিজেকে নিয়ে হারিয়ে যেতে চাই। আমি মনে করি এবং আমি বিশ্বাস করি আমি এই পৃথিবীর সবচেয়ে সুদর্শন এবং ক্যারিশমাটিক তরুণ। তা নিশ্চয়ই আপনারা আবার এই ডায়াসটা দেখেই বুঝতে পারছেন। আপনাদের হাসি প্রমাণ করে আমার এই প্রতিভা এখানে বিকশিত হওয়ার সুযোগ নেই। তাই আমি ঠিক করেছি আমি প্লেনে করে সুদূর মার্কিন যুক্তরাষ্ট্রের হলিউডের উদ্দেশ্যে পাড়ি জমাবো। সেখানে গিয়ে আমি সিনেমার নায়ক চলবে। যেহেতু বিশ্বের অধিকাংশ অনাথ আশ্রম আমার টাকাতে চলবে, তাই আমি ঠিক করেছি আমি সেখানে রুটি খাওয়াবো না। কারণ আমি ব্যক্তিগতভাবে মনে করি রুটি হচ্ছে পাশ্চাত্যের খাবার। তাই আমার দেশকে তুলে ধরার জন্য, আমার দেশের মানুষকে তুলে ধরার জন্য, আমার দেশের মানুষের খাবারকে তুলে ধরার জন্য আমি সেখানে ডাল ভাত খাওয়াবো। এভাবে আমি সারা পৃথিবীতে ডাল ভাতের কৃষ্টি চালু করব।
So Bhaiya just wanted to play that right at the top, because this has become like a legendary video in Bangladesh. From time to time, I think a lot of generation of young people, they discover this video on YouTube and they get inspired. Like, who is this person? Like, who we probably don't know much about, but he has done so much. So just right at the start there, just wanted to understand, when you wrote this page for some program or something, what was really going through your mind? Because it's quite incredible that you have been able to actually go to USA and then sekhane become like a global name in your own field. So when you actually did this, what were you thinking? That can you recall that?
Yeah, no, I do actually. So this is so we won the National Debate Championship, Dhaka Television Bitorko Championship from Government Lab, and I think on TV debate, I don't know, এখন এটা আছে কিনা, but ওই সময় যারা টেলিভিশন ডিবেটের চ্যাম্পিয়ন হতো, they would get the award from the Prime Minister, and so I think, we won in 1994, and the award ceremony was not till 1995. And they gave us a very open-ended topic. I forget exactly the topic was, but it was a very open-ended topic, like what do you want to do with your life? And I just, sitting there and listening, what different people going to present, and they were very boring. So I was like, how can we make it like really funny and hilarious? And because everybody says they want to do great things and they want to do all the change the world, and that's so, like, I'm like, if 15 people talk about the same kind of things, it'll be like people are gonna fall asleep. So I was like, okay, how can I be like a comedian and make a really, really funny story? So there was no inner meaning to that story. I just really was trying to be a funny, give a funny speech.
No way. Amazing how it worked out. I'm sure somewhere deep down, actually something else worked, because that was amazing. Because I think এরকম ভাবে এরকম একটা bold কথা বলাও, you need that kind of a confidence in yourself at that age to even go out and say it in a funny way, right?
Yeah, I think at that point, the only thing I was wondering that how can I entertain the audience as opposed to anything else. And to be honest with you, I forgot about the debate till it showed up on YouTube a few years back. I don't even know how people found it. Uh, uh, but somehow somebody found it. And yeah, so then people start sending it to me, and it was like kind of funny. But there was no inner meaning, or I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was just trying to be really make it entertaining, because literally 11 people were kind of not
Right.
funny, so I was like trying to be funny.
Right. So we have like these very early days, right? After your time in government lab, Dhaka College, or Dhanmondi, আপনার যে life ছিল growing up there, like do you think there are any early experiences যেটা kind of helped you when, like, in your worldview, or in your interest to really take on the world, move ahead, or your hunger to grow yourself or become somebody really out there? Like, can you recall anything from the Dhaka days or your early life in Dhaka?
Not like I'm honestly, I don't take myself that seriously ever. But I think probably a big turning point for my life was getting involved with debate. So debate brought a lot to me, but it also cost me a lot, right? Because at some point, in many ways, debate. I was so involved on debate and debate club. I probably sacrificed my academics a bit for that, but I think the big thing about debate was I was very nervous. I remember, I think it was on 8th grade or 7th grade, something like that. We had this first debate in the classroom, and I did really, really bad. I think at the end of the debate, আমার স্যার teacher সে আপনার ক্লাসে ভোট নিছিল, and we lost like 95% of the vote. Everybody voted for the other person. But that got me really interested about hey, how can I do it better? So I started keep practicing in front of mirror, and then my debate got better and better, and it got better in 9th grade, it got better in 10th grade, and and so and at that time they started this high school television debate, and and so we had this government lab team, and that did really, really well. But at the same time, I founded the government lab debate club, DCL, Debating Club of Laboratorians. I think it's still around. And so I got really involved on debate, and I think I learned a few things. Number one, it taught me leadership, and so that was really important, how to build leadership in a very young age, because you were founding a club and you were recruiting other debaters, you were organizing debate competitions, and so that was good. Second thing, it taught me public speaking, because public speaking is so important. Most people are so nervous about speaking. Third, it taught me how to organize my thoughts, and deliver an important message in a funny way. uh, uh, the because I think if you look at the debate, we did deliver some serious comments like how we want to help the world and how we want to fight hunger and things like that. But I delivered the message in a funny way. Uh, and uh, and then the fourth thing is, like I always tell this story. It's really, really interesting. It taught me that, how to pick right people for right role, right? So when I started the debate club, I had a lot of friends, but I quickly realized that when you're trying to build an organization, you always have to find the right people, uh, as opposed to your friends, and because your goal is to make the organization successful. And so that also taught me how to recruit and build the right team around you.
No, yes. So I think this is an amazing advice because I think a lot of people, especially who are trying to start out, I think it একটা বড় চিন্তা থাকে যে, okay, let me get people who I'm familiar with rather than, really putting in that effort to find out just কাকে দিয়ে কাজটা হবে. But on that note, there is something that I noticed when I was reading up that you mentioned somewhere, Jay, uh, like, uh, you mentioned somewhere, Jay, I think when you went to the US or US যাওয়ার আগের কোনো একটা time, you were not even aware of Wall Street.
Yeah, no, I
Wall
was.
Street.
No, I wasn't.
And someone who's not aware of Wall Street at that age, like when you're going to the US for your undergrads, but you turn out to be one of the youngest managing directors at JP Morgan. So how does that work?
No, and I think, I don't know, it probably changed a lot, the world, but in 30 years ago, like in 1995, 1996, that Bangladesh didn't have a very good capital market either, right? The stock,
Right.
remember the Ershad, we got democracy in Bangladesh in 1991,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Something like that. 1990.
1991. So it was just, for like, I was born in 77. So from 77 to 91, Bangladesh was ruled by military government. And
Yeah.
really, there is all these companies, everybody I knew worked for governments. Like there's no real entrepreneurship like at scale in Bangladesh was in 80s, at least not that I can think about. Yeah, there was Boshundara and there's a couple of other companies who were there that I knew, but most of them like either doctor engineers or work for companies, government, or like there's no real big businesses that you see in Bangladesh right now. And so in 1991, 92, 93, like there's no real capital market. So I didn't know anything about stock. And like my dad and Amar Abba, he never owned a single stock. Like, nobody in my family. Like now I talk to my uncle and aunt, they're like, oh, we bought some shares and things like that. The country has changed a lot, but in 1990, I didn't know anybody who owned a stock. So I didn't really know anything, So when I came to college, I studied economics, and one of my friend, who's older friend, he got a job at Wall Street, and that's the only first time I learned about Wall Street. And then I took a finance class, and I was like, "Wow, I really like the finance class." And so I studied. I was like, "Okay, now I want to go to Wall Street." The problem is, I at that time, and even today, unless you go to like a top tier schools, right? It's really, really hard to get a job in Wall Street. It's getting a little easier, but it was even harder at that. It was very hard at that time. So I really had to like cold email. I literally at one day I went to University of Denver at Career Council office, and this was in 1998, and they didn't really have digitized all the alumni information, so they had these big black binders, and I went through everybody on this black binders, like there's a 20 of them, and who lives in New York, and just basically email them saying that, hey, I'm coming to New York. Can I meet you? I'm interested in Wall Street. And through that, I got a interview at a firm called Farm and Sales, which later became ING Bearings. And that's how I end up going there as a summer intern as an investment banker. And then I got a full-time job. And then in 2001, telecom bubble burst, 2000 .com burst, and I was out of job, and as an immigrant, I had like whatever the number of days to find another job, otherwise I had to come back. But I got really lucky because one of the guys who was the CEO of ING started a new firm called Fulcrum Global Partners, and he needed a young associate. So when he found that I heard that I would have a job, so I got a job, and it was a very tough market to get a job, very, very tough. So I got really lucky. I got a job there and was able to renew my H-1B visa and stay. And then uh, uh, I was working for a senior analyst who was covering software, and and I was helping him. And then I was like, you know what? I have a lot of free time because I had pretty strong work ethics, and I didn't have any family. I didn't have that much many friends. So I was working a lot. So I was like, why don't I cover internet stocks? So I picked up internet stocks, in 2001, myself literally at 2002, actually 2002, literally at the bottom of the market. And then those stocks do really well, and I was doing a good job covering those stocks. And then JPMorgan heard me, and the internet came back roaring, and that's how I end up where I'm. So, bunch of lucky things happened, right? To be honest with you, if I didn't lose my job, I would probably not go to research. If I didn't go to a smaller firm, because Fulcrum was probably not my first choice, but I was in a tight timeline, right? You have to get a job within a certain period of time, unless you lose your H-1B status or you cannot, like whatever the rule was at that time. And so I had to get a job very quickly. So I got a job to get my H-1B extended, and then but going to that smaller firm gave me the opportunity to pick up a research coverage of internet in 2002, because if I was in a big firm, they were much structured. They would never let me do that.
Oh, this is amazing. But where I think you're too humble, and like that's like the few times I've spoken to, I think you always sound very humble. But I think like, how did you end up choosing internet stocks? Because that was that by luck, or that was something that you saw something that maybe another associate did not, who went for something else?
Yeah, I think nobody believed in this internet companies, because they thought, remember, these stocks were down 70, 80, 90%,
Yeah.
and people thought these are just bad, and people just didn't pay attention to the stocks. They didn't believe in internet, they didn't really believe how big the internet could be, you know. Uh, I think what's going on for me, I was young, I was using internet, like my friends were using Google before people heard of Google, and uh, so I saw the opportunity of the internet, and I also realized how global it could be, and how it can really improve people's life, in terms of information source. Right, when I was trying to come to the US in 1995, 1996, I went to internet cafe to go to Yahoo to find about different schools, and I realized that how profound it was for my life going to internet cafe. And as more and more people have access to internet, it was pretty obvious that it would be very big. But most people who are older and established at Wall Street, they didn't really care. Like they thought internet was dead. If you really think about it, right? In 2004, when JPMorgan hired me, they didn't have an internet analyst. Most firms didn't really have an internet analyst. Because either they got tainted during 2001 crisis, or they got fired when the Wall Street, shrunk their coverage of equities. So it was so I think, I was young. I understood the opportunity. I also realized how big those companies could be. I think there was a timing worked out great.
Great, Beth. So, what about that time at Credit Suisse when you led the Alibaba IPO? Because that became like a really talk of the town. That's such what was like in terms of being the scale at which it was done, in terms of the timing, because I think that was very important for a company like, not just for a company like Alibaba, also for the entire industry to see that you could actually like raise so much money to grow this category of businesses to such level. What was it like during that time, or what really you took out from this deal that you ended up doing this legendary deal that everyone talks about?
Yeah, no. So the Alibaba deal, it took me 10 years to win the deal, right? Like I met Joe Chai, who is now the chairman of Alibaba, and and one of the co-founders of Alibaba in 2004, or 2005, something like that. And Alibaba was doing like I think $60 million revenue at that time. It was a tiny company.
Yeah.
And Joe was a CFO, and and nobody is really, it was not a super hot company. Not that many people was reaching out to him, and at least not from the US. And so when I reached out to him, and then I went to Shanghai. I didn't. He came, actually met me, and so we built the relationships over a decade. And in 2010, when I was kind of bored being a research analyst, I was talking to him, and he was like, he has actually recommended that I explore going to investment banking. So he's a great mentor of mine, gave me a lot of good advice. So in 2010, and then in 2012, when Carol Burtz, who was the CEO of Yahoo, quit, and there was an opportunity because Yahoo owned a big chunk of Alibaba, 40% of Alibaba shares. There was an opportunity to buy back the shares. So I called Joe, and I think I was the first banker, called him, and he and I talked, and he gave me some task and how to think about it. So we worked through it, and that's how we got hired to buy back their shares. And then we had to go raise money to finance that transaction, and that was a very, very difficult fundraising. And I think I'm really proud of that because at that time Alibaba, in 2012, Alibaba owned. They still own Ant Financial, which is the payment business, and that got into a lot of press coverage. It got into a lot of trouble. And they spin out of the Ant Financial business out of Yahoo from Alibaba to a separate entity and gave the ownership to Jack Ma. And that was very controversial because Yahoo was the owner of the company, 40% owner, and he suddenly, transferred the rights to a different to himself. So it was very controversial. So a lot of people didn't want to invest in Alibaba because they didn't believe in them. And so we had to go explain why it was done and how it was resolved ultimately, and got. So it was a tough fundraising. And we also, Credit Suisse, to make investors confident, Credit Suisse made a $50 million investment. So basically, the fee we generated from the M&A advisory, we basically took that amount of fee, we just put it in the deal. So, which ultimately Credit Suisse made $200 million profit on that. So it was a good deal for Credit Suisse. But but that deal, we did a good job, and then that's how we got hired on the IPO.
So that was definitely a bold step from Credit Suisse as well, putting their own money in to make sure the investors.
Looking back, if that deal would go south, I would get fired. I would have gotten fired. So they would definitely fire me. But good thing it works out.
I think in terms of being bold here, like with all these, at that point you're doing so well in finance and investment banking and all this. How do you come into Snap as the chief strategy officer? Was that like, that sounds like, okay, you're getting to something completely different, right? Because once again, that's a social network and yeah. So how did that work? Like, and also playing such a vital role, because it's not like that at that point Snap was such a big company established. No, Snap was still in its kind of a bit early days. There was still a lot of conversation around, like they were probably not making revenue or something like that, right? So that's when you.
Yeah, so this company had like zero revenue, and
Yeah. So that was a bold move, right? So how do you think of doing that? Because that wasn't.
So it's funny story. I didn't know Evan. Evan is the founder of Snapchat, and so I was, one of the recruiter, headhunter reached out to me, and I, and I was not a user of Snapchat at that time either. I was 37 years old at that time. 37? Yeah, 37 years old at that time. 36 maybe. And 36. Yeah. So, it was not really my demographic. Most people who were using Snapchat at that time, people who were in their, high school or college, So I went to Credit Suisse when I got the email. I knew of Snapchat, because the company was doing a lot of young people who were using it, but I just never downloaded the app because at my age group at that time nobody was using it. So I went to, once I got the email, I'm like, okay, at a minimum he will be a potential client, right? So I should go see him. But I went to all the first year and second year analysts, so people who graduate from college, when they come to investment banking, the title is first year analyst, and then you have a second year analyst. So these are like just graduated from college. And so I went to them and asked them, hey, do you guys use Snapchat? And literally 100% of the first year analysts raised their hands saying, yes, we use them. I'm like, wow, if 100% of the first year analysts at Credit Suisse using the product, it must be something. So I downloaded the product, and I know those young kids showed me how to use the product. And then I went to meet Evan, and we really hit it off. And I really, he's a very smart guy, very thoughtful guy, and has a very good instinct about product building. And he's very young. He was like 23 at that time. So he's 13 years younger than me. So we really hit it off, and he offered me a job. But at first I actually said no, because I was nervous. Again, I'm a little older. I have an established job. I have a child. My son was born in 2010. So he was 4 years old. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to take the risk. And so then, so I actually turned it down. And then the next day, Joe Chai, who's the chairman of Alibaba, I saw him, and I told him that, hey, I have an offer to go to Snapchat, and I turned it down. And he said, are you crazy? I'm like, why? He said, you should go do it. I'm like, what happens if it doesn't work out? He said, if it doesn't work out, you can always come back and become a banker, right? You just did the Alibaba IPO. People will always hire you as a banker. So what do you have to lose? Go try it out 1 year or 2 years. If it works, you're going to look like a genius. And if it doesn't work out, it's fine. You can always come become a banker again. So you really have no risk. Maybe you're going to make no money for a year or two, but that's fine. But you can go take a risk, and it could work. It will be great. So I'm like, if you say it that way, that's kind of cool. So I looked it up and said, okay, I at least have enough saving to survive for 2 years. So I'll go see if it works. That'll be great. And it worked.
So you're the genius where, like everyone talks about, because it really, really worked. So I want to pull up a picture here, and I want you to tell me what's really happening here. Like this, I believe, is from your Snap days, right?
Yes.
So what's really happening here?
That was really, really.
I think those are some falcons, right?
Those are falcons, and they're from 3 different regions. I think one is from Persia, Iran, one is from Egypt or something like that. I forgot. But it was great. So that was me, Evan, who is wearing the suit. I didn't take a jacket. It was really funny. I forgot to take a jacket. And then Prince AlWaleed, and the gentleman next to me, he was the head of the Prince AlWaleed's office at that time, investment office. But it's really interesting because I think somehow Evan got introduced to Prince AlWaleed, and I was in France with him, and he said, Prince AlWaleed wants to see us, and he can potentially be an investor, and so maybe we should go see him, and we want to grow. And we are growing really fast in Saudi Arabia. We had a very, very large audience, and still does. Snap has a very large audience in Saudi Arabia, so we should probably go. So we go, fly in the morning and land in Riyadh, and then we met with Prince AlWaleed in his office, and then we go for a Saudi city tour, and then at night he hosted in his I think it's his like ranch, this big, it's outside Riyadh. So we go to that place, and he has there's 100 people, and great dinner, and they had this falcons and camels. So it was a pretty incredible trip. He was very generous with his time and hosting us.
So I hope he wasn't using the falcon to get some better negotiations or something.
No, he was very good.
No, this is amazing there. So this is amazing. I saw this picture. I wanted to just take a look at this and get your thoughts. So so at that point of your time, you're doing really well. Alibaba worked out great. JPMorgan days worked out great. Snap was doing super. And then at some point you decide to move into entrepreneurship. So why that? Because there are so what did that shift? How did you think of doing that? Because I would assume after so many things, so many banking experiences and everything, just starting off yourself, like that must have been some sort of thought. You just don't do it out of the blue.
Yeah, I think I like to torture myself. Uh, no, I think you know, if you look at my current business, Proem is an English word that has not been used for 500 years. So what Proem means is preface, or the beginning of a book. Like আপনি যখন বই পড়েন, বইয়ের প্রথম
Yeah,
দিকে,
the preface.
preface. Uh, so I feel like, since I moved to America, I was always working for somebody, right? I worked for ING, and then Fulcrum, and then JPMorgan, and then Snap, or Credit Suisse, and then Snap. So I feel like, at this point, I'm at a point that I owe myself to being an entrepreneur and trying something, see if I can do it. Uh, and second, I really like stock. I love stock. I like investing. Uh, you know, uh, I really enjoy it. I love investing in the public market. I find it, it's kind of like playing video games, right? With lots of ideas and lots of thinking, and you get very quickly get feedback whether you're right or wrong about something, and you get to think about lots of different parts of the world, lots of what's going on in the economy and company and things like that. So and you get to learn a lot of different things. So I left and started this asset management business, long short hedge fund, buy and sell stocks, and I really like it, and wanted to try this out.
So, as you said, Brad, that you really like it, and then like there are some thought processes that goes into your like how you think this needs to be done, or how you want to probably bring some changes into the ecosystem, because I'm sure you're aware of so many things, that how things work and not. I just wanted to at this point bring this conversation to a little bit about Bangladesh, like because I think we also, like here at Bangladesh America Alliance, I think one of the things that we are also trying to figure out is that how can we also work as a bridge to, like when you are telling me that you're somebody who's so much interested into stock, public trading, and things like that. So keeping that at the back of your mind, like if I want to start off by the Bangladesh part of this conversation with a very in a bit of a generic way, where I want to ask you is that what you feel is like what are like the key ingredients of in terms of mindset or policy or ecosystem that we or like companies in Bangladesh, or the the ecosystem in Bangladesh who are working or who are doing businesses, like how do they become more globally relevant? Because I think one of the reasons, like one of the ways to get success would probably be to become relevant, not just in your city or country, like in this world where everyone is connected. I think, like, because you were talking about like 20 years back, you were thinking of like as a like a associate in JP Morgan, you are keeping track of companies that are working in China, right? But I'm sure no one's keep like at least like a lot of like either no one or very few people are keeping track of companies in Bangladesh because of how it's everything is placed. So just to get your thought process in this, what do you feel about the ecosystem we have, or policies or mindsets based on from your point of view?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not super up to speed, right? So with that caveat, but I think in general, to make a strong capital market successful, because ultimately I think if you want to build a lot of businesses in Bangladesh, you have to create a strong capital market, and so what some of the things you need in capital market, right? So number one, you have to build trust, right? So the biggest thing, you have to make sure there is no manipulation of the stock market, there is no insider trading going on, all the information that companies are providing, they are true, there is no fake numbers, so that's like one of the big thing you need to do, so that people, buying or selling companies, then they have trust on the businesses. So I think a lot of the country, and I'm not speaking about Bangladesh in general, a lot of the countries that fail to build a strong capital market is because they cannot build a trusted system. you know so that's really, really important. The second thing is you actually have to let companies fail. And India had this lot of problem for a while. India didn't have a good bankruptcy law. So I think one of the things we need to do is that we're not going to try to keep companies that are sick trying to save them. You get the capital market initiative to work, because if a company fails, guess what? There'll be new entrepreneurs come out and they will create companies. So we cannot have this bunch of national companies, or that we have to protect their sick businesses, because they're not run properly. They have a lot of bureaucracy. Third, I think you got to protect foreign capital. And I think this is, if you want countries like Bangladesh, you want to get a lot of international investment, you got to make it easier for foreigners. Listen, if somebody wants to give you money, you shouldn't make their life difficult, right?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense. So, like, I can tell you, if I want to go invest in Bangladesh, it's not easy. It's difficult to get money out. It's difficult. Like, there's a lot of red tapes.
Yeah.
I think the fourth, my understanding, Bangladesh continue to struggle with the foreign exchange reserve. So I think they need to start thinking about that, how to manage that. 5, I think we need to support young entrepreneurship. I think the technology really level playing the world, and so we need to invest in our education system, and which we have great engineers, and just got to make sure that how we can support the entrepreneur ecosystem. Because the thing is that as small businesses create jobs, it not only create jobs, it create ecosystems, right? So if you create a company who becomes successful, and people who work with you who become successful, they get new ideas and they start new companies, and then they hire new people. So I think those are the, and then the really, I think we need to have a stabilized political system, and I think the whole thing is that you need to have a government that works for the people and don't steal from the people.
Yeah, I think this has been one of the saddest things that we have seen in so many years, because currently as well, one of the things that we are trying to do is, once again, Beth, the reason we are trying to do this alliance and trying to do these conversations is we want people to be also aware that, these are the things that needs to be fixed. Like, I think the point you made about, you have to let companies fail. Like, if the company is failing, if it's a sick company, let it fail. Let it file for bankruptcy. But we have seen this doesn't happen. There are so many money which is put up behind sick companies, and everything gets even worse. So, but you're very, very true that regarding entrepreneurs, and I think Bangladesh, the startup ecosystem that we have, and I know a lot of startup founders are today listening, and they're very eager to listen to you. I know that for startups, it has also been very, very difficult. For startups, it has been very difficult till now, because we are not being able to attract strong investments. We have this funny thing where we need to open up our head office in probably Singapore or Dubai to attract like a big investment, and then basically it doesn't come to Bangladesh, but we get newspaper headlines that says that this company has raised X million, but majority of the money never came to Bangladesh because of all these laws and policies.
Yeah, and we need to ask yourself, why does it happen, right? So so we should. There's a reason, obviously. Again, I'm not up to speed all the Bangladesh rules and regulations, but I do understand that it's very, very difficult to get money in and out of the country.
Yeah.
And if you do that, again, I think my key thing is, like, if somebody is giving you money, why would you make it difficult for them? Like, it's a common sense question, right? I'm not asking, if I gotta call you, I said, Munaf, I'm going to give you money. Why would you make it difficult for me? So it's a common sense question, and we do that. The other thing I think we need to think about it. I think that's that and again, I don't know the rules, so maybe it's been fixed, and my information might be dated. But a lot of the countries, they make their small companies make it too difficult for small companies to go public. Because one of the challenge, and it's actually going to be a bigger challenge for Bangladesh and also even for Southeast Asia, right? I talked to a lot of Southeast Asian companies. It's very hard to invest in those countries because one, these companies don't get big enough to be listed in the United States. So C Limited and Grab are the two got really listed in the US, but these companies are, they're doing decent revenue, but they're not big enough for the US, big enough for the US investors. So a lot of the investors even skeptical to invest in those countries because guess what? I don't know how I'm going to get my money out, right? When people give you money, they want a return, right?
Yep.
And so a good way to do would be let these smaller companies go public in their local exchanges. So we should think about it, right? So like if you have a telecom company, an IT company, maybe we can create, like Bangladesh should think about create a small stock exchange or something, Again, I'm making it up. I haven't put any big thought into it, but you got to think about how to give liquidity for the investors so that it creates, more investment.
Yep. No, absolutely, Bhai. I think these are amazing points, and I'm sure if we could figure out a way to get you more involved, we'll get more ideas. But right at this point, like you mentioned about the entrepreneurs, a lot of founders in Bangladesh, they're trying to attract global investments, and of course, one of the challenges is getting money to the country is a problem. They're also often trying to attract global talents, but I think they also are struggling. So in terms of like what would be your advice to the founders or the startup founders? Because I think we have a lot of passionate startup founders, but I don't think they are getting the kind of global support that they need, because sadly the ecosystem probably wasn't built in a very right spirit for the startup founders to succeed. I guess like the smaller startup founders to succeed. So any advice you have specifically for our startup founders who are really trying to make something out of their efforts and their companies?
Yeah, till we have this, some of the reforms we talked about and the liquidity, I think it'll be hard to raise money, right? So in that situation, and look, it's not the most unique situation. A lot of companies in America sometimes struggle to raise money, and in my conference we had the founder of AppLovin, which is a like almost $100 billion market cap company. And Adam Forugi talked about it, that nobody ever understood his business and nobody ever wanted to invest in his business. He went to Silicon Valley and did 70 meetings and everybody turned him down, And so he built a business from day one that was very profitable, So I think, if you have a situation where I think financing will be tough, I think my advice to founders would be, and this is an advice, it's a universal advice. This is not a Bangladesh specific advice. It's a universal advice to every founder. Build a business that you have unfair advantage, or build a business that you have a superpower and where you're very, so like, I think, I co-founded a business called Verishop. It didn't work out, and what did I learn from it? What I learned from it, I never had passion for shopping. I never had passion for fashion. So that was a dumb idea for me to do it, So in this calls, obviously you celebrated all my success. So that was one of my failure, and, but when it comes about stuff, what, I really love it. I have a passion. I'm good at it. I enjoy it. And so I'm doing much better. So I think, so I think the key thing is you need to think about a business if you start that, do you have the unfair advantage, and, if you are building an IT company and you have to hire a bunch of IT people, but you don't know anything about IT, probably not the right business for you to get in, but if you're a great developer and you're building a business, you don't need that many people. It might take you longer, but you can build the product yourself, right? Mark Zuckerberg came up with a prototype of Facebook by himself in one night, right?
Yeah.
So I think, if you're really good at it, pursue something that you're really good at it. You have an unfair advantage, and don't rely on third-party capital, because I think some of the reforms, getting international capital will be tough.
Yep, true. On this, then, like you mentioned right at the top about like debating taught you a lot about leadership, and then you took your becoming one of the youngest MDs at JPMorgan, and then leading so many different like teams or companies all across these years. Like, how has your leadership philosophy evolved? Because I think as founders, it is also very important to have your own leadership philosophy, because founders kind of really inspire people or show them the vision of what they really want to do. Because now that you're mentioning that, one of the ways could be to don't rely too much on third party capital or funding. Can you develop a business model? Example you gave, that can you develop a business model which will be profitable from day one, at least to some extent, so that you can build your own thing, and at some point you can grow this. So how do you, like, based on your experience and this comment you made, the leadership philosophy that we need to have, like, what are your thoughts on that? How does it need to evolve?
Number one, you have to lead by example, right? Culture starts at the top, right? You cannot preach something to other people to do that you don't do. That is very, very important, right? You have to do what you tell other people to do, right? If you tell people that you have to work hard, you have to work hard. You have to, uh, you have to, if you say other people, so I think the first thing is that you are the founder, is the culture career of a business, culture setter of the business. So as a founder, you have to set that. Second is you have to be very transparent with your team. I think transparency is very, very key. People need to. There shouldn't be any ambiguity. Again, I don't think it's a founder thing. It's in any relationship also. There shouldn't be. You should never go think about it. What Imran is thinking about me. You should be. You should be always very upfront. Uh, and I think sometimes it's a cultural struggle because we don't want to tell people upfront how we think about them. But I think that's the most beneficial thing you can do. That take the ambiguity out, be transparent about your goal, be transparent about the performance, be transparent about and then the third thing is, at the end of the day, always think about you're building a business, and when you build a business, there are a lot of people who are participating on the business, right? They are your customers, they are your partners, they are your employees, and always think about it, how you can create a win-win-win situation that everybody wins, and when everybody wins, everybody in that ecosystem, will support you. And that's how your business will become a better business.
Well, this is great advice, Web, because I think currently, like, you are aware of the July, August, like the changes that has happened last year in Bangladesh, right? So many youth coming up and saying that, okay, because I think one of the challenges was the leadership, like in whichever way I say it, of the country, they were not following what they were saying, right? They were saying something, they were doing something. It became so apparent that at one point everyone realized that we want this change. Now that this change has happened and it's been like 9-10 months, there is so much energy that the young people have here. But I also feel that the younger people are not also very much clear on how to become globally relevant as young professionals or resources. Yeah. So first of all, what are your thoughts on the change that has happened and this?
Yeah, I think to become globally relevant, I think the most important thing, you have to be relevant for your own country first, right? And the most important way to globally relevant is, whatever the Bangladesh GDP is, can we 5x the GDP in a next 20 years, right? I think, so the more Bangladesh can do to lift more people out of poverty, and build a bigger middle class, that will ultimately, make the country more relevant, right? And so I think the single most important goal would be for the country, one, expand the education level, two, lift more out of people out of poverty and create a bigger middle class. And the bigger middle class we have, everything else will take care of itself, right? Uh, uh, I think the challenge for a lot of the countries, and look, it's a problem even in the Western countries, that there is a pretty significant, the small group of people who are very, very successful, and a lot of people are left behind. And we just need to make sure that we create a very strong middle class, and to strong middle class, you have to support entrepreneurship. You have to create new businesses. You have to, and you have to, like, take the capital market, take care of it, let the sick companies fail, and the people who are working hard, being entrepreneur, cut rules and deregulate them for them, and so that they can be successful and build business.
Yeah. So here, of course, the people who are in the country, they need to do this. But what about the Bangladeshi diaspora? Because I think uh, currently the Bangladeshi diaspora is growing stronger and stronger. Like there are so many people now out there who are making their mark, doing so many good things. What do you think? How can they play a role in this next step that Bangladesh is supporting?
Yeah, I think you have to make it easier, right? Listen, you can't make it harder, right? If I want to go buy a land in Bangladesh, I can't buy a land or a house or something like that, right? Because I don't have all the Bangladeshi identification, so ultimately, and I'm not going to go get 5 different documentation to buy a building in Bangladesh. Why make people's life difficult? And uh, uh, and people who live outside left Bangladesh and build a life outside the country, they also want free flow of capital. I think the more restriction, I think that one thing you should take away from me is that we need to make smart rules. Bangladesh has to make smart rules, and it's not only Bangladesh specific. Every country needs to do that. We have to make smart rules. We have to make deregulation, and we have to run the country like it's as a business. And I think Singapore has done the best job on that. They really run the country like a business. And look, a tiny, small country in Asia became an economic powerhouse. And I think we should try to learn a lot from what Singapore has done.
Bhaiya, let me ask you this straight up. Like, if you provided that you get some support in terms of doing whatever you want, if there is one thing that you want to launch in Bangladesh, some initiative or something that you feel will help the system, what would that be? Like, provided that all these red tapes, they help you out, because I think now we have, yeah.
Listen, I'm
There
a capital market expert, right? I'm not and I'm an operator also. So I'm always happy to be, Bangladesh is a big market, right? There's over 150 million people, young people, because at the end of the day, what is the, so I think the country has a lot of potential, and I'm always available if people need anything, all you have to do is just send me an email to come to this thing, you didn't have to, hopefully you didn't have to chase me. It was one email. And
no, absolutely true,
yeah,
absolutely true. And
I'm always accessible. So if anybody wants to ever reach out to me with an idea or discuss, I'm always available to discuss these ideas and things.
this is great, Bear. And I must tell the audience that yes, Imran Bhai has been super helpful with this. It hasn't been I think it has been very smooth getting him to come here. I'm sure that we will definitely take you on this, and we will try to make sure that if we can get some right people to also reach out to you to get you more engaged and see how we can get you up. So we're towards the end of our questions, and since I know you have to go in an hour, and I'll just want to get this last couple of questions in. So one of the questions was about you have started something. So there are 2 things, right? You're doing other than your business. So one is there is conference, and then there is your podcast, right?
Yeah.
So just wanted to understand what got you into that, because you wanted to be like a movie star. Is this like a step towards that?
No.
Or how does it work?
So I think the whole podcast thing is really interesting because I know there's 2 objectives. Number one, I've been very blessed with meeting a lot of great people and working with a lot of great people, and I wanted to think about, okay, how can I democratize the access to these people? How can you hear from the people that I know that I have the privilege to learn from? How can I take that information and make it broadly available to a large group of people? And the whole point of the podcast was, okay, hey, I know XYZ founder and CEO, bringing him to the podcast, do this 1-hour podcast. It's called Conversation. It's available on Spotify and Apple, the Conversation with Imran Khan. So check it out. and really make their story available to a broad group of people. You know, and I think there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the U.S. and they don't have access to them. So it's really democratizing the access, not only the U.S. and globally, to these people. Second is that I found that this podcast, I learned a lot myself. Because you know somebody, you talk to them, but you never really dig into the deeper their history and their stories. Like I would not know Adam Forugi was turned down 70 times before he couldn't raise the money. Like that stories are really fascinating. So I learned a lot myself out of this podcast. So it's a good way for me to learn. It's a good way to spread the word. So that's the way of the podcast. And the conference is the same thing. Bringing these people together, drive ideas. Drive a learning experience.
Oh, this is great, Bhaiya. I hope we will be able to do one form of this sometime in Dhaka as well. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll bring
definitely.
conference to Dhaka at some point of time.
Yeah.
Bhaiya, just one last thing I want to ask you before I invite Kawsar Bhai back again. So what's next for you? Like, what are you planning to do? And any other secret big $1 billion investment that you're planning to do,
No,
or
right now,
planning to raise, or what's in it next?
right now, I'm really focused on building my hedge fund. This asset
Okay.
management business. I think it's gonna, it's gonna be a 20 years journey if I have the health and lucky to do that. And so I think that's one thing I'm really focused on. And my kids are now one in high school and one in middle school, so I'm trying to spend more time with them also as much as I can. Those are my two priorities, but and also try to help people when people need something. With ideas, brainstorm. I love ideation and brainstorming.
No, this has been great, Bhaiya. I think I will invite Kawsar Bhai back onto the stage, but I think it has been an amazing conversation with you because and I am sure we will, after we are done with this, we will try to figure out how can we get you to engage more with whatever is happening in the country. And as you said, we will take this on that, we'll send you an email maybe very soon and tell you that
Thank you.
this is what we want to do.
Always reach out. I love hearing from people in general.
So Kawsar Bhai, I just wanted to bring you back
Yeah.
into the conversation.
Thank you, Munaf.
We're almost
Thank
all
you.
done. Yeah.
Okay. Nice to be back, Imran Bhai. I was just from a different angle. I had a few, I wanted to just ask you a few things that I wanted to know. I think also a lot of these young students and young people are all tuned up and they're sending a lot of messages to us. So one thing that occurred to me that nobody asked is that I don't know if you know how many Indian, F1 visa students go yearly to the US to study. That figure is somewhere around 330,000, F1 students. That includes both undergraduate and graduate. That was in 2024. Versus in Bangladesh, that's roughly 17,000. And that was even after, there was a bump during Biden's time. So if you do the ratio calculations, I believe we are somewhere a third of what India is doing. If you look at it proportionately, right? So we seem to be missing this, something here that we should be having at least, if this is 17 or 20,000, we should be having 60,000 Bangladeshi students going to the US, right? So why do you think we're missing that? I mean, do you
I
have
don't know.
any idea?
I don't know, but I really don't know the answer. But if I have to guess, one could be financial reason.
Okay.
Because India has a much bigger affluent group than Bangladesh, I'm guessing.
Right.
The second could be interest. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I never looked into it.
Would you be interested into looking into it? Because this is something, if we can explore, the more students we can send, the more H-1Bs, the more, the more our middle class, expands. So this is something very few people are really looking into, actually.
Yeah. I think the key thing is, listen, American universities are welcome the foreign students in the country who want to come and want to study and contribute to the academic research. So I don't know how many people are applying, to be honest with you, because if I have to guess, right, you have to look at how many people is applying, how many people getting the visa, and how many people are bona fide, are really, really interested in coming in and academically. So yeah, I'm happy to look into it, but obviously,
But it's just my thing. I was just thinking because this past quarter, the money sent from the US actually surpassed the money we received, the remittance money we received from the Middle East. This was the first time. And a lot of that had to do because all these students are there now. Now they're working and they're sending money back. So this, I thought this was an amazing thing. And if you could increase the numbers, then there's a new foreign exchange, boom for us. We don't always have to rely on the garments trade.
I have a different takeaway. Rather than sending our talent in the international market and hoping those people are going to work and send money to Bangladesh, maybe we should try to create a better business environment in Bangladesh that people can be successful.
No, but I understand that. But there are like 180 million of us.
Yeah, to me, I think it's a very short-term thinking, right?
Okay.
That hey, we need to send our people to country. Listen, anybody who wants to study and want to learn and want to be academically successful, they should come to the US. I think US has the world's best universities. But to be honest with you, when I came to the US, I never, my intention was not to stay in the US or have a job in the US. I literally, when I came here to study, and along the road, I got a Wall Street job, and I was really, really interested about Wall Street. I always wanted to come back to Bangladesh originally, but then I got into Wall Street, and my dad's business was different, and so lots of different things happened, and I ended up staying here. So I think the big thing to do is really, I think the key thing would be, how can we create more businesses in Bangladesh? That's the best way to create.
Obviously, and as you said, because we had Ashik Chowdhury, the executive chairman of BIDA 2 weeks ago. So we will definitely make plans to talk to him about about the deregulations that you were saying, and maybe we'll have him back again. What do you think, Munaf? We should have a talk about him, just basically on what Imran Bhai said.
Because Imran Bhai, you'll also be very happy to know, because I think when we were speaking to Ashik Bhai, who's the chairman of BIDA currently, he was also actually saying the same things. Like he was saying that, like there are hundreds of documents that a foreign company comes and needs to fill up or get when they want to come into the country. So maybe we can do some sort of conversation and see.
I think we seriously need to have a conversation. Maybe Imran Bhai can also be there. We can have a panel of experts speaking about that. Because I think this really needs to be, we need to fight this head on, because people speak about it, but they don't really, there's not enough being done about it, right?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of deregulation.
We will look into it, Imran Bhai. We'll look into it. My second question, Imran Bhai, is from one of our, one of your followers. So his name is Khandakar Raihan. He's curious, how can young professionals in Bangladesh better prepare for global leadership roles?
You can also see the question on this.
Yeah. Look. I think the big thing is you have to study hard. There's no compromise to that. You have to be academically super strong and do well. And then second, you have to work hard, right? Because a lot of people are very good students, but they don't, they become very quote unquote intellectual, right? What you learn, and you have to put that learning, And then the third, you need to, if you're building a business, or you have to think about it that listen, if you're a software developer, you have to think about it. Are you one of the best software developers out there? If you are, investor, you have to think, are you the best investors in the world, right? Like right now, we live in a flat world, right? And we're competing in a global stage, and so fighting for the excellence is the only way to be, to always try to be excellent.
Right.
I don't
Thank
care
you.
about that.
Yeah.
But
Bhaiya, I think Bhaiya also needs to go. So Kawsar,
Yeah, I think the hour is off. We are
yeah.
5 minutes above the hour. So Imran bhai, thank you so much for joining us today. And definitely we will be requesting you to come back again, maybe as a panel with maybe Ashik and some other people, because it's our intention that our alliance tries to build bridges. That's our, philosophy. That's our objective, especially with America and Bangladesh, and see, how we can help not only, help in policy, but in developing industries, business, whatever it may be. So that's our objective. So whenever we, come up with these big issues, we really try to think and see, how we can develop these relationships. So would you be willing to come if we
yeah,
can arrange something maybe down? That'd be wonderful. That'd be wonderful. So, Munaf, I leave you to say the goodbye. So I'm going to say bye to you and to everybody else. Thank you so much. And Munaf, if you would do the honors.
Yeah, no, so thank you so much. I think Imran Bhai, it has been an amazing conversation. We are already getting a lot of text that this has been great, and I'm sure there are so many more questions people have. But I think we really look forward to engaging with you again, Imran Bhai, and we hope like your story inspires so many of us more to not just go out of the country, but as you said, can we take the GDP or can we take the market and become so big, 10x, solve the problems and all this. So I want to leave you with a note of thanks, Bhaiya, and I know you're super busy, but thank you so much for doing this.
no problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. And thank you everyone
Okay.
for listening.
Thank you, man.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Good night and good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.